Hey, me again, showing up at the start as required with my horrible lighting. But it's the beginning of the month, so I figured keep things on more of a regular professional schedule. Southwestern US, Colorado River, and Lake Mead, Powell, etc., reservoir, water level update stuff. But anyways, PayPal, Patreon, links, and everything, that's all down below if you want to support me. I'll do so if you actually can. So, as we're entering summer here, that might at first usually bring the idea that that's the time when the lakes would drop the most. However, that actually tends to be when the refill season is for the year, because once it's summer and it's the hottest, that's when all the snow that fell in the winter melts in the Rockies and runs down into the rivers, which then all collect into the Colorado and then feed down into the lakes like Mead, Powell, and in this case also Flaming Gorge. However, compounding the perpetual long term drought issues and the net loss each year, for the most part, of water level from the major reservoirs out west. This past winter, there really was not that much snow that fell in that portion of the Rockies, at least, the portion that would drain down into the Colorado River Basin. So none of the reservoirs are going to be getting any of the major upward water level or water volume restoration boosts this summer that they have occasionally seen. It is definitely looking like it's going to be a mild restoration bump summer, and Lake Mead, the title case of the video, has not even actually started to curve off yet. Normally, normally right as you begin summer, it starts tapering its decline rate, and some years goes flat, some years starts to regain, sometimes not until much later. This time, here we are, and it's still just precipitously dropping. Now under 1050 elevation feet, and that number's not the depth of the lake. U.S. lake system is measured in elevation feet, which is the height of the surface of the water above sea level. And although you'll look on a lot of diagrams and you'll see a lot of these lakes are 500, 600 feet deep, keep in mind these lakes are not rectangular swimming pools with great vertical walls. They are flooded canyons with sloped walls, so they're much more V-shaped. Flaming Gorge, for example, being down about 20 feet out of a total depth of 500. However, already down to around 75% of its water level. So that top 20 feet, that top 4% of its water level held over 25% of the actual water volume itself. And as you can see, a fair portion of that drop was a few weeks ago when a huge amount of water was released from Flaming Gorge to flow downriver to stop Lake Powell, at least temporarily, from draining any lower than it is right now, because if it goes lower than this point, the water will start to reach the top of the intakes for the turbines, at which point you start running into some problems. And if you get down a little bit farther than that, you can't generate power from the dam anymore at all. And if you go down even further than that, in each case, usually between 50 to 100 feet further in water level at least, you get to a point where the dams can no longer release water to flow down the Colorado River, which is kind of their purpose. The idea behind them was to store up excess water over time to be able to release down the river so that the river's flow can be maintained perpetually, even in drought seasons, both for the sake of maintaining the river itself, but also to make sure it stays at a proper level down along the Arizona California border, because there's a place at Lake Havasu who you can see here year after year. Its water level stays right about the same because it has to, because that's the level at which the pipeline system, the Colorado River Aqueduct, comes in and sucks that water out and pumps it hundreds of miles over into Southern California for California to use. So the big factor behind why that river level, at least the river flow, needs to be maintained at all costs is so that the water level at that point does not fall below that intake system. As I was saying a minute ago, Flaming Gorge a few weeks ago was sacrificed, sort of, in part at least. A huge amount of water was essentially dumped out of it to keep Lake Powell from having to drop down any further, and so that Lake Powell can continue releasing water to flow downstream to Lake Mead without having to actually reduce its own water level further, so that Lake Mead can continue releasing water down the river without its water level dropping faster than it otherwise would be. but it's still not really enough to actually stop it. So keep in mind it would otherwise be dropping faster than this, actually. But, anyways, it's now down, heading towards 1049 in elevation feet, which has it down close to now only 29% of its total water volume. And again, remember, flooded canyons, sloped walls. So the further down you go, the less water volume each foot holds, less than the ones above it did. So the further down you go, if you continue declining, the faster down you will go. And Lake Mead, for reference, its minimum power generation level, the point at which it could no longer generate electricity, is down at 950 elevation feet. And the point in elevation feet at which it could no longer release water and the Colorado River would stop flowing would be down at 890. And so that then leads you into a whole bunch of other issues that I discussed in this other video linked in the corner. Just keep in mind if you watch that one, that was made a month ago, so the water levels being discussed are a month old. But it's also talked about concepts in there like potential solutions, such as using large tunnel boring equipment to drill extra lake bottom drain pipes out through the or underneath the bottom of the dams, or just abandoning the concept of Las Vegas being able to exist and demolishing the dams. But like many other problems with human civilization, is something that's being put off in a we'll cross that bridge when we get to it fashion. So, anyways, thank you everybody for sticking around and listening. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. There's other videos for you to watch if you want to. PayPal, Patreon, YouTube, Super, whatever buttons are all down below if you want to support me. Only do so if you actually can. There's also a link in the description to a drive folder I maintain with all kinds of different graphs across energy, minerals, mining, electricity, etc. That's all free to access at any time. There's a link in the top pinned comment to my cat's YouTube channel. May God bless Sam Tech to everybody, and I will see you all around next time.